Thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for letting me on.
One of the points that you made several times here is the idea that the concept that abortion is health care, if we say it that way, some people feel that's politicized.
Yeah.
But it's not. And I think we've tried all the ways to explain to people it's not. We have to get this out of the realm of being an us versus them conversation. It's an all of us conversation.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, we all follow like political tactics and political strategy, and we see the way these things evolve over time. And a lot of it is language. And I think that phrase, abortion is healthcare, has struck a lot of people as a slogan.
Right.
Oh, you don't want it to seem controversial, so you're going to call it healthcare, but we all know it's something separate. And people who came up with that idea and sort of sloganed that idea to try to make people understand it that way were coming from a position where they actually knew what they were talking about. It was abortion providers and people who had worked on this issue with the women who it was most affecting for years and who could foresee what was going to happen if abortion rights were taken away. And now I just think that the American public is getting that like a bucket of cold water in the face. If you take away abortion as a right, if you take away the federally protected right to it, anywhere Republicans are in control, they are going to ban it. That includes nationally if they are in control of the federal government. And when you take away abortion as a right, when you criminalize it, women die.
Yeah.
And it is not it's not an esoteric thing.
Yeah.
It's not an inchoate idea. It's not an aspirational thing. It's the lived reality, and in some cases now the reality of the dead women that we've got in this country because of these bans.
Is there a distinction between saying, hey, abortion is something that should be decided by the states, it's sort of abstract, versus the criminalization of abortion? Because what we're seeing now is the criminalization of abortion, the criminalization of a miscarriage, possibly the criminalization of pregnancy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the criminalization of contraceptives. There are some people who are actually looking to go down that road. The criminalization of IVF. I think when a voter is presented with that idea, are we actually going to do what The Handmaid's Tale did? Are we going to actually criminalize women? Do you think that changes the way they think about it?
I mean, yes. I also think that people are now realizing that in these states where you saying, oh, we're not going to prosecute the woman, we're only going to prosecute the doctor.
Right.
Oh, only going to prosecute the doctor. Well, what that results in is dead women under doctors'
go somewhere where they're not going to get prosecuted.
Either doctors
or
leave,
they don't do it.
They refuse, or they feel like they cannot. And in Texas, they've been told they cannot provide life-saving care for fear of going to prison.
Right.
I mean, you can't blame doctors here in these situations for not knowing what they're legally allowed to do, because these laws are vague. They are designed to be threatening both to women and to doctors, and the result is that women die. And I just feel like whatever you believe about your own personal decisions that you either have made or might hypothetically ever have to make about whether to terminate a pregnancy, where you had an elective choice about it, I think people are now realizing that a lot of this is just not about elective choice. It's just about whether or not you're going to take off the table, take out of the doctor's armamentarium something that is a basic part of healthcare that literally we have done as a people for thousands of years, and say, for political reasons, we're not going to do it. It just... all of the little nuances, all of the little, you know, the exceptions. Oh, we're not punishing the woman, we're punishing the doctor. All these little fine lines don't matter. When you ban abortion, women die. And we're living through that now, and we're seeing these women's obituaries, and we're hearing from their families. We're hearing from their widowed husbands who are taking care of their surviving kids. And it's just, I just feel like it has swept away a lot of the political nonsense and small talk we've had on this issue for a long time. And that's why I feel like the electoral impact of these bans is a real black box, Ali. I don't think that it's pollable, because I don't think people know how viscerally and gutturally this is affecting people's understanding of what's at stake here.
What's changed since you started reporting this story? You reported it well while Roe was there, and while it wasn't clear that Roe was going away, challenges to abortion were alive and well in the states, which came up with all sorts of weird rules about abortion clinics and how wide the hallways needed to be and the doors and things like that. Yeah. You saw that movement underway. What's changed since you started reporting on this?
Well, I mean, sadly, what happened while we still had Roe was that the courts were a refuge, an increasingly unreliable refuge, but a refuge for women's rights. And so you'd see Republicans, again, everywhere Republicans have control, push it as far as they could in terms of restricting these rights, in terms of making the practical necessities of how to access abortion care and related services, making those things impossible to get. And you saw so many states go down to one, and in some cases no, clinics. And the courts were a refuge that was increasingly unreliable, and now, of course, the courts, again, wherever Republican appointees are in control, are hostile. And so the ways that we protect women the best we can now are in some ways outside the legal system. It's supporting abortion funds. It's trying to make sure that people can access abortion medications, even in places where that's threatened to be illegal. It's taking stuff essentially outside the legitimate, licit system of how we protect one another, and women are trying to take care of each other off the grid. And that's just a very, very dangerous and very liminal way to do it. And to know that your country, again, everywhere Republicans are in control, your country is trying to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Your country is willing to see you dead in order to keep one of these bans in place, puts women in a very adversarial relationship with democracy and with this country. And I think that is a radicalizing thing, and I think women want to go back to feeling like our government actually wants to keep us alive.
So you've got a situation where your government might actually be the one who's killing you. You also have a situation where all of the political violence that we're talking about, that you hear Donald Trump talking about these days, the dry run was with the anti-abortion movement.
Yes.
There was political violence that was given cover by authority for a long time in this country.
Yeah, I think that is underappreciated, Ali. I mean, when we did the documentary about the assassination of Dr. Tiller, one of the things that was so unsettling there was that not just you had the murderer, but you had a movement, a pro-murder movement, out of which that assassin came, that celebrated and lionized the attempted assassination of Tiller and then the successful assassination of Tiller. In the radical anti-abortion movement, which has now taken over the Republican Party and has now succeeded in putting Trump abortion bans in effect in 21 states, you had a movement that said it was moral to kill people who were involved in the provision of health care to American women. And that justification of violence toward our fellow Americans for supposedly moral reasons has echoes in what you have seen in terms of the violence and the threat and intimidation that has been trained against election workers, that has been trained against secretaries of state, that has been trained against, Democratic political opponents of Republican officials. And the idea that violence is going to be the way that you stop the certification of the election, or that violence is going to be the way that you stop the vote counting in Philadelphia or in Detroit or one of these things. There was a dry run for that in this country over decades that I think gestated in the anti-abortion movement that celebrated the murder of American doctors.
One of the things you talked about was the fact that we now have some very good journalism on this, but we did have it with you. Back in 2013, on the 40th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, you showed 5 embattled abortion clinics. You went around the country with now my executive producer,
Rebecca Dryden.
Rebecca Dryden.
Fantastic.
And I want to play a little about one of the interviews, what you heard from an abortion provider talking about this harassment that they faced.
Okay.
When you're the only provider in a state, you become a target for both your local people who disagree with the services you offer, and you get put on the national radar and you get put on the national map. It doesn't happen in any other business where people are allowed to act like stalkers and use your first name and try and intimidate you on your way into work. There's no place else where you would work where somebody would be allowed to act that way.
Do you ever worry about your safety?
I always look around before I step out of a door. But again, I'm on Social Security and Medicare and have had a good life, and somebody's got to do this, and I won't be intimidated.
Somebody's got to do this, and I won't be intimidated. I'm fascinated since the fall of Roe when I've started speaking to some of these people. What motivates them? It's amazing. What these people literally do it at risk of life and limb to help others, and in some ways to uphold the democracy that we all believe we share, that all of us should have the same rights, which we do not have in this country anymore.
I mean, the amazing thing about going into the clinics, and again, this is before Trump overturned Roe, in these embattled clinics in Republican-controlled states, once you get through the gauntlet and the radical anti-abortion protesters and all of the security challenges and the legal harassment and all the other things. Once you got inside those clinics, what you found was providers who were not at all radicals, providers who had incredible job satisfaction because once they're in there providing health care to their patients one-to-one, they know they are saving people's lives. They know they are giving people care that they desperately need, and they know that if they don't do it, they're not sure anybody else would. And that sense of being needed and providing something important made for these very surprising interviews, I think, where they're talking about the incredible threat that they're under, but also no question that they will continue doing the work. And that, I think, was inspiring to me in terms of, you know, all of us as Americans in a time of repression. You know, the thing that keeps you going is not necessarily just, you know, having guts and being willing to gut it out, but being needed, making sure that you're doing the things that you can do that maybe other people can't do, being needed. And that gives you not just a righteous place in history, but it gives you a righteous life and a lot of satisfaction and I think the love and respect of the people who you're helping.
And this week, people are needed, and people can do something to help their fellow Americans. You are a great friend and a great colleague.
Thank you so much.
You're busy enough to not have to come in here on a Sunday morning.
I'm really grateful. I mean, I know this is crucial real estate on the Velshi Show, and I'm really grateful to be here, Alex.
We love having you here. And a special shout out, of course, to our mutual friend and colleague, Rebecca Dryden, who helped put this all together. One day I will get her on TV. Thank you to Rachel Maddow, the Emmy Award-winning host of The Rachel Maddow Show. Thanks for all the important work that you do and for joining us this morning. We'll be right back.